Coming up on Wrestling Life.
I realize I can't help every single person out there, but man, I'll tell you, I'm going to go down fighting, helping as many as I possibly can. When death finds me, it's going to find me living.
Welcome to Wrestling Life with Ben Veal, the show that features real talk from real talent.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling Life with Ben Veal. This is the show that's committed to sharing the real stories that lie behind those that have positively shaped wrestling's past, present and future. Thank you so much for joining us today, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the show using our hashtag or social media channels at Wrestling Life Online, and the hashtag is Wrestling Life Pod. Joining me today, I'm so pleased to welcome a truly special guest. He is not only a champion in the world of professional wrestling, he's also the founder of not-for-profit organisation Champion of Choices, and is mission-led to inspire young people to dream big and live with purpose. My guest today is a former WCW superstar, a WWF Intercontinental Champion, an accomplished amateur boxer, and is now America's #1 school presenter. A very warm welcome to Wrestling Life. To the show today, it is the one, the only, Marc Mero. Marc, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, Ben, thank you for having me, man. I've been excited about doing this podcast with you.
Oh, it's so nice to see you. How are you keeping as we record this towards the end of 2023?
If I was any better, I would need two of me right now, okay?
I love that. And you are, so we're recording this now, but you are getting set to come over to the UK for the first time since 1998 when you were here for Capital Carnage, a show that I remember very well for some very surprising, well, two very surprising reasons. I think any fan of the Attitude Era will probably remember the same. This time you're coming to Great Britain with a very different goal in mind. What's the purpose of your tour in 2024?
Well, when I used to come over to the UK, it was always for wrestling where we get to entertain people. And it was just, I loved going. It's some of the biggest fans in the world are the UK fans. And, but now I'm going over there and sharing a positive message with students that they're going through relevant issues, depression, anxiety, being bullied or abused, self-harm, and of course, the worst case, suicidal thoughts. And, Ben, before I used to go over there and it was great to entertain. In some way, I still get to entertain people, but at least nobody's hit me over the head with a chair anymore.
Yes. You'd hope not anyway. Yet, okay? Yeah. So how did this move come from then, from going from being a WWF superstar to becoming essentially a motivational speaker for young people?
Well, I gave you the quick story. Was after I finished wrestling, I went through some really hard times and fell into some dark depression and became to a place in my life where I didn't even want to be here anymore. And there was a pivotal moment that happened in my life that where I was going to end it all. But I fell to my knees and I just asked God into my life and everything changed. And it's crazy how things happen. At that time, I lost my financial empire through divorce and bad decisions and choices and everything else. And I got a job training people at a Gold's Gym. And I remember how humbling it was because people would come to Gold's Gym and go, "Oh my gosh, Marc Mero, what are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I work here." And they were like always surprised to see me that I went from a wrestler to, just training people at a Gold's Gym. But then we used to have this thing at the Gold's Gym called the Wall of Fame where your clients would get on the Wall of Fame if they had really good results. And it was like my clients were all over the wall. So I decided to open up my own personal training facility and it really took off. But then I got a call from a school called Melbourne High School in Melbourne, Florida. And all they wanted me to do is come and speak to their football players. And I said, sure, that would be fun, So I went over and spoke to the kids. And next thing I know, I started getting like messages through Facebook, mostly back then. And it was like, man, you really changed my life. You really inspired me. And I thought, well, there's no greater feeling than helping another person. But unbeknownst to me, that school called another school and said, "Hey, we just had Marc Mero here. You got to have him talk to your kids." And they had me speak to the whole school. And Ben, it just snowballed from there. And then some of my videos went viral. And next thing I know, I'm traveling all over the world speaking. I've been to Russia, Guatemala, and we're going to the UK this year. We're going to Puerto Rico. And of course, United States and Canada. I average about 230 events a year. It's a crazy schedule. But, I thought when wrestling was over, I remember flying home from the UK thinking I'm going to retire and I'm done, And I thought, man, I don't got to travel no more. I could just be home, because so many years of my life were traveling. Remember, I did this for 14 years. And next thing I know, I'm back on the road living out of a hotel again. But wow. I love it. I've never enjoyed anything. It's like finding your purpose in life. And I think God has a plan and a purpose for each and every one of us. And it really showed me that even though I didn't learn it till later on in life, I found it, and it's been the most incredible experience, not only changing lives, but getting so many letters from students and parents that their kid was saved because of the presentation.
And you've been doing this since 2007, is that right?
This is my 17th year presenting at
congratulations.
School, and I finally get to come to the UK.
And how much have you seen, we're living in a very different time now to 2007. Yeah. And, I guess when you were starting when social media was in its very infancy. You kind of mentioned Facebook there. How different is it now, the issues that young people are facing compared to what they were facing 15 years ago?
Ben, I wish I could say things are getting so much better, but unfortunately, we are seeing so much, detrimental effects on students, and I'll be honest, our smartphone has outsmarted us. I mean, we are seeing so many kids that are addicted to social media. And the problem is that they're up all night long scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or something, and they don't get the proper sleep, the rest they need. And they always are looking at other people's lives, and they fall into depression. And I'm seeing this over and over again, but I'm also seeing the suicide rates just skyrocketing in America and all over the world, actually, in the UK. I mean, you guys are experiencing the same issues we are experiencing. But someone said to me once, they go, well, Mark, I mean, you can't save every kid. And I realized that, there's an old analogy about a little boy walking along the shore, the ocean, and he sees all these starfish that washed up on shore, and he starts throwing them back in. And an old man sees him. He said, hey, kid, what do you do? Save them all? And he picks one up, he throws it back in, and he goes, I just saved that one. And I realize I can't help every single person out there, but man, I'll tell you, I'm going to go down fighting, helping as many as I possibly can. When death finds me, it's going to find me living. Absolutely.
And I had the thing is, but because of that exposure you had through WCW, through WWF, you've got this elevated profile, haven't you? You've got this platform, and there's an opportunity there, as you say, to live this purpose in a way that wouldn't have been offered to you had you not already built such a name for yourself in a world of kind of television and entertainment.
Absolutely. I owe so much to my former employees, WCW and WWE, that gave me this platform, that gave my name a national following, and sometimes a worldwide following that many people know who I am. But it's amazing walking through airports now and traveling where people say, oh my gosh, I saw you on social media. I saw your video. And because remember, I wrestled 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. And it's just so nice to see people that recognize me for what I love doing now. I only wish the WWE would work with me in promoting the school program and utilizing it for their programs, and bringing more attention to the need we have especially in our country and around the world.
Yeah, it does feel there's a natural alignment there between what you're doing and what they're looking to do with their community outreach work.
You would think so, but unfortunately, they have their own program. I believe it's Make-A-Wish or something like that, or Be a Star.
Be a Star, yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't really share the whole message that kids need to hear. They don't really get into the depression, the anxiety, they touch on bullying and things like that. But they're more like, kids are more starstruck because the wrestler might show up at a school and just but they don't really get the full message that's so important. What happens with our program is we get hundreds of messages after our presentation, and we go through every message and we look for kids that are depressed or going through something detrimental in their life. And then we get those kids the help that they need, or we try our best to. And sometimes it's up to the school or mental health specialists that we rely on to help these kids. But we've seen, like I said, so many kids that lives have been changed or saved because of our program. And I will continue doing it as long as I possibly can.
No, well, good on you for doing it, because I mean, I'm the father of two boys, and my oldest is 10, and I'm seeing it now. I'm seeing the smartphone addiction. I'm seeing the cyberbullying. We're entrenched in this right now as a family, dealing with kind of difficult exchanges on WhatsApp and exclusion, and many of those things that I went through as a young boy. Well, ironically, WWF wrestling was my escape from bullying, but I had that when I got home from school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I could at least be safe until the next morning. Whereas now, children don't have that. If they're being bullied, that can carry on 24/7.
Yes.
And as a parent, sometimes I don't really know what to do with that scenario because I haven't lived it. But then there's the other side where I'm also addicted to my smartphone. I try not to be, but I'm addicted to it. I think so many of us are of our generation because it came in. There's never been any rules. These things are designed to hook us. And it's very hard. I feel very hypocritical sometimes to say, put your phone down, when I know what my screen time has been like today. And, I do worry greatly. And I just think it's anything we can do to have these open conversations, and especially for personalities like yourself to go out there and have these open conversations is really powerful. One thing that really struck me, I've noticed that when you do your talks, you're there carrying your Intercontinental Championship, the white title, which I still think is the single best belt design there ever was. It's interesting because obviously you're speaking to high school people now. As you say, you wrestled 20 years ago. Has the WWE network and the kind of plethora of content that's available now helped in terms of introducing a new generation to who Marc Mero is and what you're all about back in the day?
It's funny because a lot of kids go and obviously search my name through Google or something and find old matches of mine, and so it has brought a lot of attention to wrestling. The belt is more used kind of as a prop. Like anytime you get kids to talk about something, like I wear an Invicta watch, which is really an inexpensive watch, but it's kind of fancy. And kids always will say, "Oh my God, I like your watch," but it opens up communication, conversation. The belt opens up huge conversation because they're like, "Oh man, can I put it on, or can I wear it, or can I hold it?" So I've continued to always bring out that belt. And I mean, and when the kids look up the people I had to beat to get that belt, I mean, think about it: Owen Hart, Ron Simmons, Stone Cold Steve Austin. And it becomes like, oh my gosh, I remember that guy, So I utilize these things as communication props to really open up kids to talking to me and sharing with me maybe something they're going through. But I love sharing, and then they're talking about wrestling, and they always like, what was it like wrestling The Undertaker or Ric Flair or Stone Cold or Triple H? And it just opens up conversation.
Well, the thing is, in your wrestling career, you really bridged multiple kind of, in that brief window of time from say 1990 to 1999, so much changed in the industry, didn't you? And you were there throughout all of it. And, from the time you came in early 91 to, being there in the heart of the Attitude Era, you saw a lot of change in a very short space of time, both culturally and in terms of what the product was and who it appealed to.
I sure did. I was blessed to be, I think, being part of wrestling in probably the greatest era thus far. I mean, when I thought about, you're sitting in a locker room and there's, Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, the list goes on and on. And then, of course, WCW with Sting and, Road Warriors and guys that are just so incredible. I mean, iconic people in the industry. And I got to wrestle with and against them. And I just was so blessed when I look back on this now and think, wow, I got to work with all these amazing wrestlers and be a part of this. And it was just incredible. But yes, seeing the change, where it came going from WCW, where the good guy wears the white hat, to going to WWE, where the guy that's got the black hat on is now the good guy. Yeah. It's crazy. But it was just amazing, and of course, bringing my ex-wife with me into the WWE and seeing her become a star was another incredible time in our lives. But it's just so many great memories, and also there's some sad moments too that you look back and you wish things could have been different. But man, I have no regrets. I mean, I think about all the paths I took in life led me to right now where I am talking to you, Ben. And it's just been an incredible journey. And I wouldn't change anything, only because I know if something changed, maybe I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the transferable skills then, Mark, in terms of transitioning from being a sports entertainer to being a motivational speaker? How much has that helped you in this second chapter of your career?
You know, I only wish I was as good on the mic back then as I am now. You know, I think doing so many presentations, I'm in front of people all the time that, and I got to tell this, some people always think, you know, that you don't get nervous anymore. I get nervous at every presentation. Remember, I've done thousands of schools now, churches and corporate events. I still get nervous, and I'm so glad I do, because I think when you're a little nervous, you really try that much harder, or you want to make it that much better. You know, I think when you can't just call it in. You can't. You gotta be authentic. You've got to go back. When I talk about detrimental things that happened in my life, I have to almost relive those moments so my audience can feel what I went through and make the smart choice of not doing it themselves.
So when you do corporate events, then speaking to a very different audience, is that different, because presumably you're speaking to an audience that's a bit more informed about who you were in the 90s, so lots more people kind of my age and of that kind of stage of life. Does that change the narrative in terms of?
Absolutely. You know, and with corporate events, I talk to my peers, and so many times as adults, we become complacent in life. One day becomes the next. And we settle for the status quo, where we say things like, I wish I would have, or I wish I could have, or we say things like, those were the days. Ben, I'm here to tell you, these are the days. These are the days we learn from past mistakes. We grow in grace and knowledge, and we can accomplish anything we set our minds to if we just put forth the effort. I mean, there's so many of us that have an amazing story that could write a book. You could self-publish a book on the internet. You know, start your own business. It's so easy to get an LLC and start your own business. You know, it's about finding what you really want to do in life, your calling, your purpose in life. And I tell you, I watched too many of my peers that retire, and within a few years they leave us. In other words, they die because they don't have a reason to get up anymore. Man, I tell you, I will never retire. I'll just refire. And I want people to see that energy when I'm at a corporate event, because I want people to know that every one of us has a purpose. You know, it's okay to retire, but find something you love doing. Maybe you want to volunteer for a nonprofit organization. Maybe you want to help kids, whatever it is. I found the greatest joy in life is helping another person. There's no greater joy. It's like finding your purpose. You want to be happy? Help someone else be happy. You want to be successful? Help someone else become successful. Giving while you're living, so you're knowing where it's going.
I love that. Yeah, and it's you're right, because one of the hardest things about being an adult wrestling fan who grew up on early to mid 90s wrestling, as I've seen so many of my heroes and people I watch, you know, either pass early or fall into very ill health. And it's, you know, it's great to see you know, DDP, some of the guys of your generation kind of have really embraced the life after wrestling and seem to be living, you know, an even richer life now than you were when you were under the bright lights of WWE. And it's really encouraging, and hopefully it provides a bit of a kind of spotlight in terms of the opportunity that you can have post wrestling, if, as you say, you're living with purpose.
You know, DDP and I live about 20 minutes apart, so we are able to see each other, and obviously I work out with him occasionally. And in fact, we have Thanksgiving coming up here in the United States, and we're getting a lot of the old wrestlers together. We're going over DDP's crib and having a great Thanksgiving. And we all have so much to be thankful for, because so many of us have, you know, been in the ring or wrestled guys that have unfortunately passed on, whether to drug abuse or just bad health or whatever it would be. We are some of the lucky ones that are still, you know, doing well in life. And we're so fortunate, and we live with an attitude of gratitude and being together, man. We swap old stories, and, you know, I've wrestled DDP so many times. I mean, the craziest thing is we laugh because they always put us like on an opening of a pay-per-view, you know, and and our thought is, we're going to steal the show, man. We're going to give it everything we got. So he was, and we took the same determination into our after wrestling life, you know, with his DDP yoga and all the amazing things that he is doing, helping other people. And of course, with my school programs and things that I'm doing, it's we've just when we get together, it's like we almost out inspire each other. It's crazy.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall to you two.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. He asked me, like, when I go over there, I mean, he's got the sauna, he's got the hyperbaric chamber, he's got the cryogenic things, he's got the yoga. I mean, it's like,
he's gonna outlive me.
Yeah, it's like I'm going there and I'm like preparing for close to death. Okay. He's so competitive still, like we always have competition, him and I, on who could do the most push-ups. They're called DDPY push-ups, or they're 30 seconds, 10 seconds up, hold it, 10 seconds down. So it's one push-up is 30 seconds. Okay. And me and him have been this crazy competition for years since we got into wrestling. And, he'll get 8, I'll get 9. He'll get 10, I'll get 12. It's like back and forth. And right now he's holding the title from me. So I got to get it back.
This episode of Wrestling Life is brought to you in partnership with our friends over at Legacy Sports Nutrition. Take your physical and mental performance to the next level with Test X9, the natural testosterone booster. Clinically proven, Test X9 from Legacy Sports Nutrition is NSF certified, third-party lab tested, and made in the US of A. And it's brought to you by friends of the show, 3-time world champion Nick Aldis and 10-time world champion Mickey James. Nick developed and uses these products himself, so they work, and he shows you how over at legacysubs.com, with links to clinical studies on each of the 9 key ingredients. No bull, no bro science, just facts. It's time to level up your strength, energy, libido and drive now with Test X9 from Legacy Sports Nutrition. And if you want to really level up, go for the ultimate test stack, adding T-Assist, a pro-grade estrogen inhibitor and test enhancer, and the best-selling sleep aid Recovery PM, and discover why improving your sleep is the key to unlocking your mental and physical potential. So stop settling for average, go to legacysubs.com now and use the promo code WrestlingLife for 10% off your entire order. That's promo code WrestlingLife. And if you subscribe to have it shipped every 30 days, you can still get the discount every single time. So head on over now to legacysubs.com and level up with Legacy. I love that. I love that you've been able to support one another on your purpose-driven business journeys as well, that you're actually there. As you say, you're doing such similar things, albeit to slightly different audiences, but the same purpose is there, really, isn't it, in terms of what you're both trying to do?
Amen. Friends for life. We'll always be there for each other, good times and bad times, and obviously when we lose a friend that we both know or someone in the industry, it's a very monumental thing in our lives, because we realize, how short this journey is. And we're both, up in our 60s now. And, we're in the last couple chapters here, God willing. And we want to make every day count. Every day I get up with a purpose, and Ben, it isn't like bad things don't happen to me or DDP. It's not about the circumstance or situation. It's how you respond to it that makes all the difference. Much of my life, I've always had a horrible response to adverse situations. I had a bad temper, a foul mouth. I'd throw my phone or get mad or whatever. And still saying that Dr. Phil says, how's that working out for you? Yeah. Not good. So I had to make some changes in my life. And it really started with my faith in God and changing my life. But even more importantly, helping other people has really gave me the purpose.
I have to be honest, talking about wrestlers that are no longer with us, Scott Hall's passing really hit me hard. Yeah. I thought I was immune to a degree after this point. It's become so prevalent over the years. And that one really shook me to the core, because Scott had done such an incredible job of turning his life around. And you could see him now successfully living to a ripe old age. And that was a hard one. And that's just coming really as a fan,
Yeah, he also lived real close to me, and we'd get together. A bunch of us would always get together, with DDP and Scott. He just had such a great sense of humor. We got pictures of us just sitting there laughing, and then when we look back at these pictures, you remember so many of the good times. Obviously he battled his demons and he got through so much in his life, and there was a time where I was picking him up and we'd go to church together. It was just incredible, and we got real close. And obviously that one really hurt when Scott passed on.
Yeah, it's hard. I wanted to take you back to the start of your wrestling journey. So you were trained, am I right in saying, by the legendary Malenko family?
Yeah,
is that right?
Boris Malenko.
How was that?
He was a great guy. I mean, once you got to know him, I mean, he was so used to people coming and leaving right away because the training wasn't easy, And I remember one of the things we had to do was we had to learn how to fall properly. You'd cross your hands, you just fall backwards on the mat. And it was kind of scary, like just let yourself go, And I remember hitting that mat the first time. I sound like a seal from SeaWorld. I was like, I couldn't catch my breath, And he's like, do it again. And, woo. But anyways, I stuck it out. And one of the many success stories that came out of Malenko's pro wrestling school, Dean and Joe were mostly on the road, but when they came in and just put on some matches in front of us just to show us different things, it was like, how do you ever get to that level? It's like watching them just seamlessly do moves and know where each other is at all times, and just the how fluent it was, And I remember just sitting there going, how do you get to that point, And it just came from hard work and not giving up, just keep going. Me and DDP with WCW had the power plant back in the old days, and DDP and I we were both kind of green. He started at 35 years old. I started at 31 years old, so we were late bloomers. So we'd go down to the power plant and we'd work out with each other and try to do the best we could, and we actually became pretty good. I think we both won like Rookie of the Year or Most Improved or different things like that, just by working out together and helping each other.
Do you think, but you came to the industry fairly late, I guess, by normal standards at 31, not that late, but fairly late, I guess. Was that you were an amateur boxer before and you had a lot of success and
yes.
The Golden Gloves tournaments in New York? Was your plan to be a boxer and until you were injured and then you were derailed and wrestling became a second avenue, or had you always thought maybe wrestling could be for you?
When we were little kids, my dad took us to the Buffalo War Memorial Auditorium. I was like 8 or 10 years old. And Bobo Brazil was wrestling the Sheik, the original Sheik. And we were sitting up real high because we didn't have the money for good seats, But I remember that the Sheik would pull out a pencil and he was jamming Bobo Brazil in the head, and Bobo Brazil was bleeding all over the place. And I was asking my dad, why aren't the police coming? Why aren't they arresting this guy? I was so terrified, as a little kid. And then fast forward now, I'm wrestling at, I think it was Cobo Arena or Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. And the original Sheik comes backstage to say hello to the boys, And I was like, I had to tell him the story about how petrified I was and how it affected my life, like thinking, how does someone like this get away with doing something so horrible to somebody and not be arrested, Right. Yeah. And he just thought that was the greatest story, because that's what he loved to do, was really to look like that incredible heel that he was.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
But getting back to your question.
Yeah. Sorry.
My brother and I, we were real poor growing up, and we had bunk beds. And because we'd wrestle each other, we broke the bunk beds and we couldn't have it repaired. So we took our 2 mattresses and made a square out of it, looked like a wrestling ring. And so we'd wrestle each other. And there was a wrestler back then that we both really liked. His name was Chief White Owl. And he used to do this tomahawk chop. And so me and my brother would be doing this to each other. So as little kids. But here's the funny story is, I don't know if you've seen the video of it, but my brother also wrestled in WCW. He never got to the level I did, but he was very good. He just had a lot of other issues outside the ring. But we got to wrestle each other on national television. He had to wear a mask because he looked too much like me at the time, So, and it's still to this day, we have the video of it. Obviously, it was on WCW Saturday Night. Johnny B. Bad versus, I believe it was Tony Vendetta was his wrestling name.
Okay.
And but to wrestle each other and then get in the ring with each other and go to lock up and have those flashbacks of us wrestling on our mattresses that were there because of the broken bunk bed. It was just incredible.
Oh, that's brilliant. Probably living a bit of a dream, really, for you two.
It really was. And I got to share one more with you that was like a real deja vu moment. Okay. When I was younger, obviously we watched Ric Flair on television, and we loved watching the wrestling on television as kids. And Ric Flair, he used to do this thing where he put his hands out like this, and you go to grab him and he goes, woo.
Woo! Yep.
So here I am wrestling Ric Flair. It's the European Cup, and I'm wrestling Ric Flair in the European Cup. And I never wrestled him before. And of course, Ric Flair doesn't talk about the matches beforehand. You just go out in the ring, and I am so green and nervous as heck because I'm wrestling a legend, Ric Flair. And he doesn't even talk about the match. So don't worry, I'll call it in the ring. I'll tell you what to do, And not only did he make me look like $1 million, like I was just kicking his butt, so the match starts and he puts his hands out, and I don't think nothing of it. I thought he wanted to do maybe a test of strength or something where he turned it around, or I didn't really know. So I go to grab his hands and he does that, woo! And I get the flashback of when I was a little kid watching him on television. I go, wow, I knew this would happen someday, Just wow. Incredible. So many, when we talk about this, you can see I get so excited because of the memories I have that I cherish from so many of the good moments that I had in professional wrestling.
Yeah, and I do too, because just listening to this, this is what I've been in love with for 35 years of my life, and this is exactly why I have this podcast to remember some of these special moments. I'm fascinated by someone like Ric Flair. You say he doesn't, you don't work the match out, but do you at least go out there with a finish? Does he call the finish?
We knew the finish, obviously, but that's all it.
But everything else,
all you need to know is what is a finish, and he'll take care of the whole thing.
So do you know finish and time, cool. And that's it? He
had me reverse his figure 4 leg lock on him. He did all these amazing things, and people really thought I was going to beat Ric Flair. Johnny B. Bad, who was just starting out with WCW, is wrestling the legend, and he was just bumped all over the ring for me. And, he does all those crazy bumps and over the top rope, clothesline him, everything. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this is the easiest match I've ever had. He's telling me everything. It's like he gave me a list of things to do. Just do them, But he called everything in the ring, which was so incredible.
And that kind of shows that kind of selfless act that is kind of part of wrestling, isn't it? That's what I love about professional wrestling, is actually it is this real part of kind of giving to one another. Not only are you kind of giving your bodies and your safety and your health to someone else, which is a huge sacrifice and trust piece, isn't it? But also, as you say, someone like a Ric Flair or a Bret Hart, have that real skill to just make the other person look incredible, and in doing so, they look like a champion themselves.
There's quite a few others. The 3 guys I probably wrestled the most were DDP, Triple H, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, especially Stone Cold, because we were in WCW and WWE together. We both went over around the same time. And so we were together all those years. So we've had so many matches against each other, but he was another gifted performer that can just make you look like $1 million. And I just loved wrestling. Those guys were just some of my favorites to wrestle, but one of the greatest matches I ever had was against Flying Brian Pillman. He's another one that was just an incredible performer.
It must have been fascinating as well watching Steve Austin, because you've been with him for so long, and he'd been very much in that mid-card role, and then you were there when he just blew up almost overnight. You were part of that King of the Ring 1996, the famous.
Yeah, he actually, I did his podcast, and he actually complimented me that it wasn't for me. He wouldn't have come up with Austin 316 because I kicked him in the mouth and gave him stitches. And he tells a story, but he had to go to the hospital, and he would never have had the time to get the word about what Jake said about the Bible and so on. So, but he's not sent me any royalties yet.
They're in the mail.
He's another guy that I'm just so proud to see him make it. And I want to share something that maybe will help younger wrestlers. One of the things I always notice about a couple guys, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Diamond Dallas Page, guys like that, what they would do is every match, I always would see Stone Cold at the curtain watching the performers. And I was like, man, this guy watches every single match. Or DDP would bring his tripod and put a camera up and videotape his matches or other matches. And, I was on the card a little earlier, so I would always leave early, and just wouldn't watch the rest of the matches. And when I look back on my career, I think about how much better I could have been if I would have learned more like a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a DDP that watched the matches and watched their own matches and become such amazing performers. So it's so, because what would happen is Stone Cold would watch other performers. He'd realize what they're good at, what moves they're really good at. And he would take moves that I could do, and he made me look like $1 million. And it was from studying my matches. And there's if anyone deserves to get to go to where he went to, it's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And that's a big thing to say, because I mean, you were you had a very successful career in your own right, Mark, and you were also very ahead of your time. I mean, I remember seeing you do the Shooting Star Press, and I was like, what is that? Like, that just kind of blew my mind. I mean, you really kind of fused a lot of styles into what you brought to the ring. Just kind of going back, I want to just ask about kind of Johnny B. Bad, which was one of the first characters that I really fell in love with as a young wrestling fan. Where did that character come from? I've heard that was a bit of a Dusty Rhodes invention. Is that right? Was that a fusion of you and Dusty?
Oh my gosh. Dusty Rhodes was my mentor. Everything, look out of my life, man. If I never met Dusty Rhodes, I didn't know where would I have ended up in life, What happened was I was wrestling. My first match was against the tag team Doom, Ron Simmons and Butch Reed, the world tag team champions at the time. They're putting me, this green kid that don't even know how to wrestle.
That's a tough first match, isn't it?
Yes, scared me to death, man, And anyways, I messed up a spot in the match, and what happened was they pinned me, and I got out of the ring too fast, where you're supposed to just lay there, but I thought because of TV, I had to get out of the ring. I don't know what I was thinking, but anyways, so after the match, they said, Dusty needs to see you. And I'm thinking, I just blew my chance of ever coming back, And I go, hey, Dusty. So soon I saw him, I go, hey, Dusty, I'm really sorry about it. He goes, oh, I don't care about that. He goes, kid, anybody ever tell you look like Little Richard? And I thought he meant like a wrestler. And I go, who's Little Richard? He goes, you don't know Little Richard, a bump, bump, a loo, bop, and wop, bop, boo. And I go, oh, the singer, Little Richard. And I said, I never heard that before. He goes, I think I got a gimmick for you. And my whole life changed, man. It was an incredible journey through Dusty Rhodes. But I got to tell you that the greatest thing about being Johnny B. Bad was that Dusty Rhodes would meet me before the matches, and he would show me how to walk and talk and act. And he said, no, go to the ring. I want you to grab the microphone and go, I'm so pretty. I should have been born a little girl. And I would get laughing so hard because that was so out of who I was, Yeah. But I would do it with Dustin. He goes, no, do it like this. And he'd show me how to talk. And I'm a bad man. I'm so pretty. I love to rock and roll, strut and stroll. And I'm here to drive you out of control because I'm a bad man. And so Dusty would work it with me on these things, I'm so outrageous, it's contagious. And we would get laughing, and he'd say, you got it, that's the way I want you to do it. And next thing you know, he's got all his makeup on me and lipstick and eyeliner. I'm like, damn. But you know what? Some of the greatest memories I ever had, my favorite time in wrestling was the character Johnny B. Bad.
And it really caught on. It really evolved, didn't it? And as you say, there was so many layers to it. But then it didn't also stop the fact that you were having some incredible matches. And, you were very much that kind of key example, I think, of what was so great about WCW, but what was also its undoing was very much the fact that the mid card was so much stronger often than the top of the card. And it was held together by this, key group, as you said, DDP, yourself, Scott Hall, Steve Austin, all these talents that you're mentioning who just went out and had, fantastic matches. And then obviously you'd see a lot of these talents a few years later go to WWF, and suddenly that mid-card talent had become the top tier of talent. And it was a fascinating time in that evolution of people like yourself and Steve Austin and Triple H, who all had one spot when it came to WCW, but then how you managed to transfer that over when you came to WWF.
There was so much talent there that was, when you look back, you say it was misused or wasn't properly utilized or whatever. But man, there's so many guys that went on to really do great things in the business, including that's my dog. I got this little Maltese Yorkie, okay, that thinks he's King Kong, okay? So Right now he sees a squirrel or something out in the backyard, and of course he's got to go tear him up. Just so you know.
Don't worry, I've got one of those.
He's 0 and 987 on catching squirrels. Okay, so
sounds like mine. Mine's off like a rocket if he ever sees one at the window.
Yeah. Hey, Rocco, come here, Rocco. Come here, boy. Come here. All right, quiet him down a little bit. But
so when you moved over to WWF, I know you couldn't carry over the Johnny B. Bad character because WCW owned the rights to that character. Right. But was there discussion? Because when you debuted Wildman Marc Mero, it's your real name, which I'm sure is great for you as a performer, because obviously suddenly your real name has so much more credence in the world after wrestling. But was there discussions to bring over a Johnny B. Bad-esque character and have you play that very flamboyant, or was it time to strategically become more serious because you had your eyes on a main event run?
I think at the time Vince thought we could do something similar. I mean, we knew we couldn't use the name Johnny B. Bad, obviously, but so when there were discussions on what we were going to do, I think when the realization came that they weren't going to be able to get a Johnny B. Bad character because lawsuits were going back and forth at that time. I don't know if you remember that, but there was a lot of lawsuits. So they wanted to be careful. So creative came up with this character, Wildman Marc Mero. And I'll be honest with you, I was going to do anything it took to obviously please the company. And they gave me the first guaranteed contract, a big signing bonus. Right. And they allowed me to bring my ex-wife with me on the road. And so they gave me all these perks, and something, and I'm not going to argue with them about, so when we went down and sat in creative and I seen the pictures, they said, we would come with this character, Wildman Marc Mero. And I'm thinking, what is a wild man? I'm going from Johnny B. Bad, this flamboyant guy from Macon, Georgia, to this wild man from the jungle. And Vince said to me in the meeting, he goes, can you do like a Tarzan yell? And I said, and I don't got a very strong voice. I'm not like a Ric Flair or Sting or someone. And I said, I really don't have a strong voice to do like whatever they wanted, So though I'd be really honest, I never really connected with the Wildman Marc Mero character. And unfortunately, because you don't connect with it, the fans don't really connect with it. They connected with Johnny B. Bad because it was so much fun. They go out there with a bad blaster, throwing frisbees, having good matches. And then going to this character, Wildman Marc Mero, was very difficult.
It's Ben Veal here, host of Wrestling Life. This show is all about real talk from the talented individuals who shaped wrestling's past, present and future. And when it comes to honouring wrestling's past, I have to give a quick shout out to the great team and our friends at BigBlueCage.com. Big Blue Cage Wrestling Store is your one-stop online shop for some truly awesome wrestling gear. Big Blue Cage's replica championship belts include the very best designs from the Golden Era, New Generation and the Attitude Era, including the much beloved Winged Eagle belt, the iconic Intercontinental Championship, which in my humble opinion is the greatest belt design of all time, the Attitude Era Big Eagle, and even the Big Gold belt, all available either in CNC or deep hand-etched plates and with real leather straps. And that's not all. Big Blue Cage are also the exclusive stockists of other old school items that I absolutely love, including WWF, WCW and old school Hasbro sock sets, and the one accessory that every wrestling fan's car needs, Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage wiper blades. It's time for the mega powers to explode once again. With UK and worldwide delivery options available and custom designs accepted, head on over now to bigbluecage.com. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right, because for me, I mean, I'd watched you in Johnny B. Bad. I was really excited about you coming over to the WWF. And then for me, the character didn't ever really click. I mean, you had, as you say, you had a good run. Obviously, you won that Intercontinental title tournament and had a good stint before your character was repackaged. But I think you're right. There was something about that character that maybe didn't quite fit in. It almost was like it was coming from that kind of early 90s piece where everyone had to be like a vocational character or something larger than life, but then it was a bit of a mishmash with the fact that you were using your real name. It was almost like they didn't quite understand what they were getting with you.
Yeah, it was a really confusing and tough time too, because remember, it was really difficult also because being the first wrestler to get a guaranteed contract, it didn't sit well with a lot of guys. Remember Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and a few other guys went right before me. They didn't get nothing. Mick Foley, they got just, an opportunity. And so there was a lot of hard feelings. I never really realized it back then as much as I did later on, when people started talking about it and talking about different things about me, and I realized that, wow, I could see why a lot of guys didn't want to work with me or help me, because you can't move up the ladder unless guys are letting you or allowing you to work with them properly. But if someone doesn't want to work with you, they can make you look really bad. And it was a tough time, but like I said, in life, no regrets, man. It's just part of life. You learn so much from adversity in life. Through our struggles, we find our strength, and it's really helped me in many other areas of my life.
I mean, I really liked, when you were repackaged, so you came out, you were injured and you came back and you were marvelous Marc Mero, and you were this fusion of, the amateur boxer, and it seemed like it was playing much to your, obviously you came back as a heel, and there was all the things with Sable, and, it's a very different character, different package. But how was that kind of second run that you had with WWF, where you were a realer character?
It was really fun because, the idea was to get my, Sable over in a way, where, she always comes out on top. I put her in a reindeer costume during Christmas and she strips off. She's got a bikini on, I'd, all different things that I would make her put in a potato sack, and she'd rip it off. She's got a bikini on. And so it was always playing to the fans of always making me look bad. But remember something, this was a planned thing. We worked with Vince Russo back then, and we would be laughing about the things we had coming up, but remember back then, Ben, it was incredible because her popularity was getting so big. She was selling her merchandise was selling second to only Stone Cold Steve Austin at that time. And it was just an incredible time. I mean, they're backing up the Brinks truck at our house. So I'm getting a guaranteed contract. So whether I win or lose, I'm getting paid the same. And of course, her popularity is skyrocketing at this time. But when I look back and realize how it hurt me as a wrestler, for example, we did one thing where I allowed her to Sable bomb me, power bomb me.
Remember that?
And, I was getting ready to work a program with Stone Cold Steve Austin, so they're moving me right up the ladder there. And Stone Cold, after seeing that, he wouldn't work with me, and rightfully understand it now from his point of view. If a girl can beat him up, Stone Cold was the top guy. Why would he even bother with someone like that? So understanding that, but back then, like I said, I wouldn't change anything because we did very well. And getting her character over was my main thing. Thing I wanted to do back then, and it worked miraculously.
When you left WWE or WWF at the time, and you stepped away for a few years, you came back to TNA and you were able to reprise the Johnny B. Bad gimmick for a period. What was it like that was very early in TNA's trajectory, I guess. What was that experience like, having been in WWF before?
I had such, first of all, I had cut all my hair off. I looked much different than I did as a Johnny B. Bad character from years before. And, it was fun to go back, but it wasn't the same. It just didn't have the same feeling. Enjoyed it while I did. I didn't do it very long at TNA. And then, of course, Hulk Hogan started the XWF. I did that for a little while with him. And the good thing about that place was I got to wrestle Mr. Perfect, man. And, he was one of the greatest of all time, Kurt Hennig. And so I had a great match with him. And some good memories there also. But I had my last match in 2006. It was a tag team against the Blue Meanie and Norman Smiley, and that was my last match, and left it as a winner, and have just transitioned and enjoy my life so much now.
Did you know that you were retiring, Ben? But did anything force your hand, or was it just the right time to step away?
No, I've had many surgeries, like any wrestler. I mean, any guy that's been in the business for a period of time is going to tell you their surgery stories. But I had total reconstruction of my knee, 5 elbow surgeries, 5 shoulder surgeries. And of course I've had my valve replaced in my heart, and they had to redo my aorta. So I had major open heart surgery. I've had a lot of lot of stuff. But I got to tell you, I feel like a kid again. I'm going to be, I'm 63, going to be 64 in the summer. And I just feel amazing. And I think these kids keep me young, man, going to these schools. And I have a lot of laughter in my life and also a lot of heartache. But that's life. You know, we go through our it's a roller coaster. You go through your ups and downs. And like I said earlier, it's how you respond to it that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So what can some of our young people over here in the UK expect to receive then when you come over and bring your tour to us?
Well, the one thing I really hope is that schools give me a little extra time after the presentation to meet with students. That's actually my favorite time because we identify kids that are really going through some tough times. And those are the kids that we come there for. And of course, when I get my messages from the students, we go through those. But obviously, I want kids to know that they're not alone. And we all go through adversity. We all go through storms in life. And some storms you could just walk through. Some storms you got to run through. But there are storms that come in all of our lives that we got to hold on with everything we got. Don't give up and don't ever quit. Because after every storm, the sun will eventually shine and it's going to be brighter than you could ever imagine. When I was in my deepest depression of my life where I wanted to end it all, and I got through that. And every day I wake up, I look up and I'm just so thankful I didn't end my life. I never would have known all the beautiful things that were to come in life. New friendships, new love, new happiness, new joy, the purpose I have now in life. And no matter what you're going through, I'm speaking to anyone out there that's going through adversity or feel like giving up, please hang in there, man. I got to tell you, you have no idea how quickly it could turn around and how many good things will come in your life. And all of a sudden, it's almost like someone's assigned in your life and they come in and everything changes. You find that love, you find that person or the people in your life that just makes such a difference. Just don't ever give up.
Do you have any advice for parents of young people who where maybe they're like I've seeing their children struggling with bullying or low self-esteem or depression? Do you have any advice for how parents can help their young people?
Yes, communication is paramount. You've got to start talking more with your kids. So many kids just go up to their room and tune out and put earbuds in, listen to music or watch, scroll through their phones or whatever. But you have to be, number one, instead of being their best friend, be their best parent. There's got to be boundaries in life, and we've opened those boundaries so far now. And when I say boundaries, start having meals or dinners with your kids, and put phones away, turn them off, get them out of the room, and then that goes for parents too. So many parents sit there with their phone right at the dinner table, or I went out to eat the other day, and we were at a restaurant, and there was parents with they had like 3 or 4 kids, and they're all around this big round table. And every one of them was on their cell phone or earbuds in. You go out to dinner to communicate, talk with each other, and all you're doing is caring about these people that you'll never even see in your life. We often take for granted the very things in life we should appreciate. And unfortunately, sometimes it's at the expense of our own families, because when you leave this earth and you're on your deathbed, you are not going to care how many followers you had. You aren't going to care what someone said about you on social media. You're going to ask for your loved ones. Why not ask for them now and spend time with them now? Time is the most precious gift we can ever have. And I just really, really reach out to people and let them know how valuable life is.
Gosh, well, I think that feels like a fitting note to finish on, because I'm not sure how we top that really, Marc. Other than to say, thank you for all the memories you gave us in the ring, but more so thank you for what you're doing now. I mean, what more do you hope to accomplish 17 years in with Champion of Choices?
If I can continue doing exactly what I'm doing, making a difference in other people's lives, whether it's the students or their parents or churches or corporations, and let the love and light of Christ shine through me in every way. But I love what I do. I love meeting people. Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite things and getting ready to come over to the UK. I cannot wait to meet friends and at the autograph signings, fans that maybe saw me back when I was a wrestler. But most importantly, getting into the UK schools and making a difference. And where you could say something or do something that someone will remember the rest of their life, and also pass it on. my legacy is not going to be how good of a wrestler I was or bad of a wrestler I was. It wasn't going to be how much money I had or how big my house was or what kind of car I drove. My legacy is going to be the difference I made in another person's life. And that's what I care about.
You are all over social media, Marc. Where can my listeners today keep in touch with what you're doing?
Well, I'm like you said, I'm all over. I'm on TikTok, Instagram. You just got to type in my name, Marc, MarcMero, and you'll find me on all the different platforms. And you're welcome to direct message me. And if you have a school in the UK that'd be interested in me coming, please get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you. I'd love to come to your school and would love to meet you.
Fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for your time today, Marc. Really appreciate you coming on, and best of luck.
You are awesome, man. Thank you so much. I can't wait to meet you in person too.
We will make that happen next year.
All right.
So thank you everyone for joining me today. That is it for another Wrestling Life. Thank you to my brilliant guest, Marc Mero. Thank you to my producer, Jeff Easton from Tall Oak Productions. Thank you to all of you for taking the time to join us today. We'll be back soon with more talk from real talk from real talent rather. So in the meantime, be good to each other. I'll see you soon.